One, two, three, four.
What's up, everyone, and welcome back to school. But don't worry, everything is cool. I'm your host, Julissa, and of course, I am here with the boys, Steve and Brandon. Say what's up, you guys.
What's up?
How y'all doing today?
I'm doing good. I feel like today is a very special episode because it's a very special month. You know?
Yeah, there's a lot going on this month.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Well, I think these two specials kind of overlap.
Mm-hmm.
So for those of you who don't know, it's Mental Health Awareness Month, but specifically for the men out there, and it's also Pride Month, so it kind of overlaps because a lot of people in Pride are men. So at the end of this episode, I will have a segment dedicated to raising awareness about men's mental health. So hope you stick around for that. How are you doing, Brandon? As a fellow man.
I'm doing fantastic. I had a professor once that said you're supposed to say that. He's like, when people ask you how you're doing, you're supposed to say like amazing, fantastic, because it's infectious. So when he would ask the students how they're doing, he'd be like, don't let me hear you say I'm okay or I'm good. You say fantastic. Or if you're not doing well, say I'm fucking fucked up.
He's saying, don't ever show how you actually feel.
Yeah. Basically.
Then hide those emotions away.
Because I was going to be like, but I like saying okay, because like, I'm okay.
Sometimes I'm just okay. Sometimes I'm just
Not that great.
all right. Have you ever seen that rant? Well, all this obviously because I was doing stuff about men's mental health awareness. Have you ever seen that? There's like this guy, a big bodybuilder type. He's giving this whole speech about how men's mental health, like it's always kind of hard to like express how you feel. You know what? Maybe I'll save it for the end. But he drops this like amazing bar where he's like, you know, people will be fighting demons that you'll never even understand, and you'll ask them how they are, and they'll say they're all right. And then he goes on this whole spiel about just like men's mental health. But I get it, like it's hard. You know how I know? Because I'm doing all right too. And I'm like, wow, he ties it all back in. What an amazing speech.
Nice bow.
Yeah, I loved it. But how about you, Julie? As a woman, how are you doing?
I'm good. You know, I've been working. Yeah. So mostly just been busy with that. But I've been good, honestly.
Yeah, that's good.
I mean, I feel like I'm still, I guess going back to a couple episodes, I'm still grieving a little bit. But besides that, like, I'm chilling. You know, I'm out here living. I'm surviving.
That's good. So everybody's trying to do.
Yeah.
Survive in the world today. I think if there's anything to kind of say be nice to your fellow man. You know, you never really know what someone's going through. So I'll save the rest of my spiel for at the end of this episode. But I guess that's just immediately what I wanted to kind of deliver. But what'd you guys bring for this week's episode?
What you got, Brendan?
I originally wasn't going to talk about this because I was like, aliens fucking 40 weeks in a row. Come on. But it caught me by surprise with how kind of interesting it was. So I was kind of like, what do I talk about? And I was kind of just looking through topics. And you guys saw last week, right? The Las Vegas alien thing?
Yeah.
I was going to talk about that.
Oh, yeah.
I was. But, but essentially I was watching the like news coverage on it. Which in itself is pretty interesting. It's not very long, so I'll run through it really quick. So, like, I guess this family in Las Vegas, right? They had seen something fall from like the sky, and then they called the cops saying like something crash landed in their backyard. And then they said that there's like monsters, or like the implication
like 8
is
foot,
yeah,
foot monsters.
you can listen.
Right?
You can listen to the 911 call. It's pretty trippy. They're like, oh my gosh, they're like 9 feet tall. Like they have big black eyes. Oh my god, you know?
Yeah, I've seen the news.
And then there's even like a body cam of another officer, like unrelated, but I guess he's the one that shows up. You see like the blue like thing fall from the sky. So they're not lying in that aspect. But the story kind of stops there, which is why I was like, it's not too much.
Yeah. I just thought it was funny. I think you sent us something on Twitter, and they're like, oh, they saw the figure, and there's a video of it, and you were like, I don't see shit.
I don't know if anybody else, I'm sure you guys have heard about it and seen the video. I literally see nothing. Like I don't see anything at all. Do you see anything?
I didn't see anything, because even through like the picture,
even when they highlight it, I'm like, I
don't
see nothing.
I think people are just being delusional. It's one of those things where we talked about how humans naturally want to see patterns where there are none.
Mm-hmm.
I think people just want to see something that's not actually there.
Yeah.
That you were saying?
Well, as I was watching this news story, it was like 2 minutes long. It wasn't that long of a story. I just wanted the rundown to see if it was even something I was going to talk about. But at the very end, the reporter says something about like Congress, and I was like, "What? Like Congress talked about this?" I misheard them, but they were saying like, according to David Grush, like this is really interesting, and I was like, "What's that about?" So I looked into that, and this happened like a week ago, maybe a few days ago. I thought this is what you were talking about when you told me in TikTok. Have you heard about a hearing? It's not that. It's unrelated. But it's interesting. So, like, it's not that long of a story, but so like 5 days ago, about a week ago, this guy named David Grush, he was a U.S. Air Force former intelligence official. He worked for the U.S. Air Force, the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency, National Reconnaissance Office. So he's like a decorated guy. He has 14 years of experience working as an intelligence officer. And he's now a whistleblower. Like he's a whistleblower, and he alleged that the United States has off-world engines and crafts, and that the government is illegally hiding them from Congress and from the public. So you might go, "Oh, we've heard this story before," but like the government confirmed he does work for them.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So
how's he a whistleblower then? Isn't like whistleblower punishable by like federal prison?
Well, we'll get there, right?
Okay. My bad.
So he specifies that they have non-human origin, and that they have either landed or crashed, and that the United States has like a covert like program specifically to find like crashed crafts and shit like that, and like obviously bring them back. He alleges that this has been occurring for upwards of 80 years since the 1940s, which if you don't know what happened in the 40s, Roswell is what he's alluding to. In 2021, he filed an official complaint to the Department of Defense Inspector General, basically dropping these allegations. He says that we're kind of in a Cold War with Russia and China because they have kind of the same thing, and that we're in like a race to reverse engineer the crafts, like who can do it first. And so what I thought this is what you were talking about is Congress is doing an investigation on this.
Are you serious?
Yeah, they're holding an investigation on this, and they're thinking about holding a hearing for him. That's what I thought you were referring to. Yeah, no. Congress is like all over this. They even asked the White House press secretary what she thought of it.
Oh, wow.
And she said, "I would refer that question to the Department of Defense." Yeah.
Wow. I don't know. It's hard for me to believe like anything that revolves UFOs. Because the conference that I'm talking about, I don't know if anybody who's listening is aware of this. Julie, have you heard about this recently? That there's like this 90-minute conference on YouTube where everybody's giving in to like, oh, like they're finally unveiling the blanket. It's all these officials talking about how like there's these alien spacecrafts. Have you heard about it?
No.
I haven't looked into it either, but it's all over my TikTok. Everybody swears like this is finally it. Like the government's finally unveiling this stuff. But more, I'm interested in the implication of like what that means. So like even for what Brandon's saying, like why would the government kind of like want us to like hear about aliens? Mm-hmm. What would be the purpose of like hearing about aliens? Do you think it would be a genuine like distraction? Do you think this is something that genuinely wants the population to kind of like what's the word? Kind of fixate on and become like fanatics on? Because I mean in the past, whenever the government has kind of like shine something in front of you, it's because like it wants you to look away from whatever else they're doing. What else could they possibly be doing?
I don't know.
I have no idea. Well, the part that people found
it is the elections next year, right?
or Trump's in custody or whatever. Well, the part that people find interesting, right, is that so he's not doing an interview because he goes to the press, right, being like, oh my gosh, trying to be Snowden. And
he thinks he's him.
Well, the news media that I watched says that they got a letter from the Department of Defense, and they show it. And the Department of Defense, I have a screenshot of what the Department of Defense says. They said, because they approved all the questions. Like they say the interview questions are approved for public release. However, the approval does not include any photograph, picture, exhibit, caption, or other supplemental material not specifically approved by this office. Our concurrence for release does not imply DoD endorsement or factual accuracy of the material.
So they're basically saying like we'll talk about it, but it doesn't mean it's real.
No. They're saying he can talk about it. They approved the questions that they asked him. Like they said he can talk about that, and people are like, why would he like do that? That's kind of weird. His defense, the guy who's doing it, says that he asked because he doesn't want to be a fugitive. Like he's trying to operate within the legal limits of being a whistleblower. But apparently, because this is like a recent update, after Congress said that they were doing an investigation, the Department of Defense kind of got a little mad. And they released another statement that said, like, basically denying everything he said. Which, I don't know. I don't know. I just thought it was interesting because...
the actual government, right? It's
he's not like some guy. He's like... He
actually worked.
Yeah, he actually worked for them, and they vouched for him. They're like, he does work for us.
I don't know. If you were a disgruntled employee, would you, especially if you work for the government, would you say something like that to the government?
Hey, man, I'm the skeptic here. You're supposed to be the believer.
Well, because for me, like, have you ever worked a job and been like, man, like, fuck this place, like, I'm gonna burn it down when I quit? Well, not obviously, no, for legal reasons, that's a joke. But I mean, like, right, you've worked someplace where you're like, man, fuck this place. I mean, multiple. You would think if you're a government employee and you're multiple, hell yeah, every job I've ever had,
multiple places.
Yeah, no, it'd be like that. That's why I'm saying, like, if you're somebody who works for the government and you're like, what can I really do to like really get at them? I'm like, why don't I just like make up this like harmless conspiracy and make these guys like have to deal with my bullshit?
But they let him do it, which is weird. They were like, go right ahead, bro. Like, they gave him the thumbs up. They sent him a letter. They gave him everything.
I think it's also because some people would like, I guess, be into it, but then other people were like, man, this was just crazy.
Well, I'm not suggesting that them giving him the thumbs up is evidence that supports him. I think that's just weird in general. Like, even if he wasn't talking about aliens, I'm like, that's kind of weird. Like, why are they doing that? It makes me think there's something else going on that isn't aliens at all. Like, is this guy like an experiment you guys are doing? You know, like you guys brainwash this guy and you guys like are sending him out to the media to see what happens. Cause that's, I don't know. I just think that's weird.
It's definitely suspicious. Yeah. And you painting that picture, it's not like the government has never done stuff like that in the past. Yeah. I mean, when in the 60s, when LSD and like psychedelics were being experimented on, the government was trying to see if they could somehow reach the astral world. Right. Yeah.
Well, he also, some of the shit that people found like, I guess alarming, or well, here's what he says is going on.
Oh, the highlights,
or like some of the things he accuses. He says he never says he saw aliens or saw any ships. He says because he worked as a UFO like specialist. Like, you know how the government does track that shit, like UAPs. That was his specific position to do that. So in everything that I highlighted for 14 years, that was his position, to like investigate UAPs, UFOs, because. Outside of aliens, the government obviously considers them as like non-supernatural. Like maybe it's an enemy thing. So that was his thing. So it's not unheard of that he would bring this up. But his thing was that he found a bunch of documents and he got a bunch of briefings that he was like, what? So he said like a bunch of like high generals and shit would come and talk to him about this kind of stuff, and that he would like find, and that he would go through documents, and this basically say that which is where he revealed that the reverse engineering shit, and that they found dead aliens in the ship. But he also says this one thing that people kind of fixate on. The interviewer asked him like, we've seen cases of, the interviewer says like, oh, I've heard of cases where jets chase these things and they like try to bring them down. Like, is that true? Like, have we ever acted offensively against aliens? And the guy goes, I got to be careful about how I answer this. And then he says, I have been briefed where there has been malevolent activity from aliens towards humans, basically implying that aliens don't like us, and that we've had conflict with them. And people kind of fixate on that because people are like, whoa.
Well, yeah, because, okay, you're starting to get me a little bit. I am starting to believe a little. I'm about to run into the forest and live out there. Well, because what gets me is that if he's saying that we have this kind of like war this against like aliens, I feel like that scares me for like for an existential reason, in the sense of like, I would have liked if we met aliens, they wouldn't even understand the purpose of war. They would have been like, why would we even have war? You know, we have this technology that can take us anywhere in the universe. What purpose do we have to fight these primates that are here just trying to figure out social issues? You know, they're so far below us. So I mean, well, I guess you can make the argument, right, of like, what purpose does a boot have with an ant? Right?
Oh,
When you yeah.
Well, he doesn't necessarily say we're at war, but this is exactly what he says. He says, "I have been briefed with incidents where aliens have acted malevolently towards humans." If you don't know what malevolently means, it means they act like with ill will, like they're trying to harm us. In specific cases. So people fixated on that of like, whoa. I don't know.
That's sad, man. I hate that idea. I feel like that makes me not want to believe, because I hope aliens aren't like that. Because if they've been around, did they say what when they found the ship?
Well, he said this has been going on for 80 years. It's like multiple cases. He doesn't say Roswell, but if you go back 80 years, you get to the 40s, and in the 40s, the most famous alien crash is Roswell. So the implication is that this all started with Roswell, New Mexico. And since then, the United States started a program to find crashed alien ships or investigate that kind of stuff, to reverse engineer the technology and beat other countries who also have it before they do. So
do you think that the reason why the government would bring up that aliens exist now is because we have these advancements in technology like AI, ChatGPT, the Apple Vision Pro? Do you think the reason why they maybe are starting to like unveil that maybe the possibility of us interacting with alien species is because society as itself as a whole has kind of open the door, that possibility, as opposed to like in the 50s, 60s, 70s, like people their brains would have cracked under the pressure of like having this giant realization?
I don't know. Well, he doesn't say it, but I guess the implication that a lot of people have is that the government isn't bringing it up. Well, because he says that they're hiding it from Congress, that they're hiding it. Remember we watched Men in Black last week and they say the same thing? It reminded me of that, where they're like, oh, the government, the Congress doesn't know about this. Like, this is just like top secret. That's why Congress is opening up an investigation, supposedly.
Interesting.
The implication people have is that the government giving him the go ahead was kind of like them bluffing, like kind of being like, yeah, sure, this crazy guy, whatever, you know. But then when the implication when the Congress announced they were doing an investigation and they got mad was that Congress called their bluff. So now they're like, fuck, like, you know, I don't know if I believe that, but that's the implication.
I feel like it sounds too much like the tinfoil hat to me.
Well, I did well because I you know me, I'm a skeptic, so I went to a bunch of like debunkers, right? And I found Dr. Grande yet again. He friend of the show.
He loves us.
One thing I thought was interesting, he didn't make this point to like in defense. He just made this point in general. He says that with a lot of alien cases like this, where like they're from like notable, they have some sort of credential, like it's a pilot or some shit like that. They'll usually say that they themselves saw it, but he's kind of a standout in saying that he didn't see it. He saw it secondhand and reading it from documents and stuff like that. I found that interesting because I do agree that's an interesting like claim. Like if you're gonna say you like aliens, right? You would be like, I saw it myself. You know, like if you're being like a prankster. But him being like, no, I saw it the old-fashioned way, where I found it in government like documents and shit like that. And
unless he's that smart.
Oh, he's that smart.
Yeah, he's like, no, it's not gonna sound believable if I said I saw it personally. It's got to be some other secondhand way.
I don't know. I think it's weird because this guy has like he's got credentials. Like he's not some guy as per usual.
Yeah.
Like with Bob Lazar, I know people say he has credentials, but he on the books doesn't, right? Like nobody acknowledges his degrees or anything like that. Like no government. But him, they do. They're like, no, yeah, this guy worked for us. And then he has a bunch of like a bunch of people who worked with him, like generals and shit like that, are like, he was a stand-up guy, one of our best. Like he was a good guy, like very, very for his country and shit. I don't know.
I think they're doing it to also just prepare us of like they're gonna pull out that like that alien thing, and they're like, this is gonna change technology, and like, because you know how you said about like the whole AI stuff and all that.
Totally,
they're like, they finally discovered something that we can actually use, but they're like, if we tell them that we found this from like a spaceship or some shit like that, everyone's gonna freak out.
Well, people have made theories like that. Like mainly jokes. I've only ever heard it in jokes in movies. Like they'll say something like, "Oh yeah, when we found in the 1940s when we found the spaceship, it advanced our technology. You know, that's how we got the microwave and the TV." Yeah. I always thought those type of jokes were funny, and also weirdly enough, I got human offended. Like I got human offended because I
dumb.
Yeah, I like it more, the idea. Like, give us the credit, you know? Like, we made that shit as a species. We were able to create that shit. So I feel like if the government came out and it's like, this new tech, like, it'll advance us as something like an alien. Me personally, being now the old head, I'd be like, no, fuck that. Like, I don't want to use alien technology.
You think so? You think people wouldn't be into, like, you can purchase now this, like, thingamabob from, like,
what does it do? You know, yeah.
well, I've seen people say that he's like a psyop. Like, he's like that. I forgot what the what
is psyop?
We can finally
psychological operation, right? Like he's like a he's like, it's like the government is like,
he's a psyop.
Yeah, like
he's a what?
They're just basically people imply that
he's a social experiment.
He's a puppet. Like he's a that people are saying like if you don't want Russia or like or China like snooping around, just be like, oh, it's alien stuff. Like, we don't have that. It's just these crazy people like saying it's aliens, you know. That's what people say. I don't know.
But like what's his purpose though?
He says that he saw a bunch of like the government is illegally hiding this, that the government can't do what they're doing, that they're hiding it from Congress, they're hiding it from the public, and he says that well, obviously that's not right. But
I feel like people underestimate. I feel like people are sometimes so easy to jump into like, it's aliens and this is all true and this is all real. And I feel like it's funny enough that it's like Men's Mental Health Awareness Month, because sometimes people can also just be having an episode. Like I think you sent me a video recently of this guy who's just like, he's just a streamer and he ends up having like an episode live on his stream. You know what I'm talking about, right?
I think so.
And he starts harassing this random guy, talking about like, yo, like this.
Oh, the cart, right?
Yeah. He's like, this is my card. Like, you're trying to harm me. Like, you're being weird. Like, you keep coming up to me. And he's like calling security on him and everything. And he's doing it in such a way where it's convincing everybody that he is the victim in the situation. So what it is that like he's telling everybody in the store and all the security and the manager, like, yo, this guy's harming me. He keeps stealing my shit. He keeps harassing me. And he's doing it in a way where he keeps kind of antagonizing the guy to come at him. And then when he does come at him, he's like, yo, everybody look. Like, he's trying to harm me. He's trying to hurt me. And the whole time he's just having like kind of like an episode, right? Like a mental episode.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying like maybe that's what this guy is, but that is a possibility too. Sometimes, weirdly enough, I mean, government officials aren't immune to like mental health disease, right?
You know what's interesting is I think I might be wrong, but I think people address that and that he was evaluated, or he has a recent evaluation, like not that long ago.
They got an answer for everything, bro.
That he's alright. Even Dr. Grande doesn't really go there, which I found interesting. Yeah, he does not go the mental health route. He goes a different route, which I didn't expect. He suggests that the guy is just straight up just lying. That the guy's trying to cash in on the UFO wave that's going on right now.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't know. What do you think, Julie? What do you think is going on? Do you believe this guy?
I don't know. I honestly don't know anymore. I feel like with just alien stuff overall, personally for me, I feel like I don't have that much of an opinion, because at the same time I'm kind of like, I don't know what's true and what's not. Like I feel like I'm more in like still the unknown, and I don't really look into it that much. Where I'm kind of like, like it's there. I don't know how I'm ever gonna get proved if it's real or not.
Yeah.
I'm just like, I just see it. I just see when people talk about it.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of like, I don't know. It's the same thing all the time where it's like somebody has a story, nobody believes them. Somebody has a story, nobody believes them.
Yeah.
And then government gets involved. Ooh, it might be real.
Yeah.
It's the same thing every single time. And I think to me, like, yeah, the stories or whatever you want to call them, they're interesting. I personally just am like, I'm more how I said, and since I've always been, I'm always in the middle where I don't know if I believe or not. Because it's kind of like, I've never seen it. Well, if I ever see it, I'm going to be traumatized for sure.
Yeah.
Like, I won't be ever the same.
You could have seen it. You could have seen it if you just sat up that one time.
I know. I could have seen it that one time in Mexico, but like, I didn't. So like, I don't know, maybe the world is like, they don't want me to see it, but
That doesn't haunt you, bro? That doesn't haunt you?
not really.
It would eat away at me.
I've had dreams. I've had one dream where like I got abducted, but
It wasn't a dream.
but that's it.
Yeah.
But like other than that, like I don't know. To me, these stories, like, they're interesting. They do spook me. Like I'm not gonna say they don't spook me, but they do spook me because it is like, I guess, seeing a whole different species, and like, especially if they don't look like us, like for sure that shit is gonna like spook me. But like, besides that, like I don't know. I just find it interesting, and I guess I'm more trying to figure out like the purpose to them.
Yeah.
Like
definitely.
especially with this one, right? If he's like, if he is or if he isn't a puppet. If he is a puppet, then what's the purpose of him like doing this, right?
Yeah.
If
You're
he's
more interested in like the real like story behind it. If it's not, once you dismiss that like this isn't real or like this isn't a UFO thing, you're like, I wonder what the actual story behind this is. He like mentally ill? Is the government using him as a social experiment? Is he just a liar, a compulsive liar? Right?
Yeah.
I get that.
and I guess I also am trying to understand, I guess, the fascination with like aliens. I get them. I get it because like they're from, I guess the thing is that they're from like outer space, and like for as far as we know, it's just us, and it's like to see them here. But then you hear like, if they're that intelligent to come here, why would they come here?
Yeah,
Like,
I feel like
it's just
that
like-
immediately discredits it for me.
What happened to you guys? You guys used to be
I just
believers.
mean, well,
I was
yeah.
the skeptic.
Well, yeah, people's opinions change all the time, man. People grow out
I
of it.
changed your minds.
Yeah, you did it. I'm telling you, that argument you told me, it's funny because it was probably live on the show back when we had the radio show. I've never forgotten that, and that's always been kind of my like, yeah, I don't know. Why would they ever come here if they were that intelligent? Why would they ever even be able to get caught? Like, it doesn't make any sense. How can they travel light years and yet, oh, he's in this guy's backyard, like crouched behind this bush?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
what?
why is he scared?
Yeah.
Like,
Definitely.
I don't know. Then again, I don't
You know what's funny? Because, like, speaking of which, I mean, we might as well address it because it's all over the news and everybody's talking about the Las Vegas, like, alien thing. I saw people, like, taking massive amounts of copium, like, as in, like, they were trying to come up with the biggest excuses as to, like, why nobody has footage of the alien. This girl said that aliens have EMPs, I think that's what it's called.
Yeah.
Where they have
electromagnetic pulses.
Yeah, so they turn off all cameras or they make it fuzzy so you can't ever record them. And in my head, I'm like, come on, man. Like, I understand keeping an open mind, but at this point, it's almost more like we're trying to come up with reasons for like why we can't see them, as opposed to like just looking at things the way they are. And like, there's nothing there, bro. It's a bush, it's a shadow. And it's like it's grain from your camera, you know? I don't know. Me personally, the Las Vegas like incident, the only thing that had me interested was that the body cam footage of the cop where you do see it crash. That was interesting. And then the phone call of him being like, I wouldn't even believe you if I didn't just see that. I feel like you underestimate how much people like are opportunists. You know, like if you see something crash nearby, and this family, right? Have you heard about the family is only doing interviews if you pay for them now? Yeah. And apparently, did you hear? Apparently, they disappeared, quote unquote.
Yeah, I saw that in the when I was looking at
Really?
that they're asking for privacy. They don't want to.
I haven't looked anything into it.
No.
Because I'm telling you, I just hear about it and I'm like, okay. Like, if you guys talk about it, I'll hear it from you guys, but besides that, like,
no, I feel
I
that
won't read into them.
No, I feel that it's because I think it's just because this one's so recent and there's like actual footage of it, and then I was like, you know, it's 2023. Why not? We have AIs and people are marrying like fucking like
we have
their computers.
I just think it's funny. When I think he sent the video thing, I kept thinking about, bro, we have like 4K cameras and your asses can't catch them on like camera.
It's
like,
because they have EMPs.
It's shitty like camera quality.
He's on my wavelength. Brandon knows what I'm talking about.
Guys, you guys are supposed to be the believers in this segment.
I'll be a believer.
I'm supposed to be the Chad.
You're different.
Yeah.
No, cause I am in also that thing of like how I said, like, I'm kind of in the middle, right? Where it's also like I feel like in another thing, I want to believe these people, because it's also like the government has done people wrong, right? And the government has hidden a shit ton of stuff from public eye. So I'm also like, to also, I guess, accuse other people of being crazy. It's also like, I guess I feel for those people if they truly did, I guess, quote unquote, see something. Because I think that's fucked up. Because I personally, for me, am like, it's just like.
Because what if it was you in that situation?
Yeah. Or like or just in general of just like knowing that you saw something and knowing that nobody's ever going to believe you because of like. Because it's always it's always been like, this shit isn't real, like you're crazy. Like that's my other perspective on it, right? Where it's like, that's why I'm kind of like, it's like it started
you can empathize
with them. Like I can feel, at least for like the first one that you said, what is it, Roswell or whatever,
the Brazilian one,
or whichever one you said was the first one that started in New Mexico.
Oh, Roswell.
Yeah, Roswell. Yeah. Roswell. So like to like, I guess the starter, right, of that, like if they for sure saw something and like nobody has been believing them since then, it's kind of like, I don't know. Like I feel for them, because I'm kind of like, if they generally did see something and then their credit is just like, nah, they're just crazy. Like they're just crazy. And it's just like, to me, I'm kind of like, I don't know.
Being
like,
gaslit by the entire fucking planet.
Well, with this guy.
And I think to go with the other thing about like the Las Vegas one, I think it's also because we assume something that we kind of just know already, right? So it's like, because we assume that they're aliens because like it fell from the sky. Like who else would fall from the sky? Aliens, right? So like that's the first thought we naturally just have of like being like, fuck, like it's an alien. Like it's an alien for sure. And it's just like, but that's just because what we know, right? We hear stories, we hear these type of stories all the time, and we're like, the first assumption is always going to be like, oh shit, it's an alien.
But I get your point too. Like I don't get like the fascination with aliens. I understand the aspect of like, oh, you know, people love sci-fi and stuff, but like I guess some people want it to be true so bad, and that's where I have trouble wrapping my mind around, because I don't understand. Like what would be the reasoning behind that? Like, why do you want aliens to be real so bad? What would that do? Would it be like, oh, that shows like that nothing is real, like I could take off my clothes, run around the city naked, right? Like, is it this feeling of like you want things to unravel so you can be free? I wonder where people get this fascination from aliens, because we're talking about the Las Vegas thing, and then whatever you're telling me, and then you don't even know about the third thing. Like that's how big the UFO craze is kind of going on right now. But like this 90-minute conference, and those keep coming out on my TikTok, and I read the comments, and everybody's losing their shit about how like, yes, like finally, like the truth comes out. I guess to me, it's like, it's hard for me to wrap my mind around, but like, why do you want that to be true? Like, what's the deeper meaning behind that? What's the psychological need that you want from it?
I think it's like with most conspiracies, I think it's the same, like whatever you call it. It's the same thing where it's like when people want conspiracies to be true, it's very like, because it makes shit make sense. Like I think people have a hard time wrapping their minds around that shit happens for no reason. You know what I mean? I don't know that that's specifically why people believe in aliens or want to believe in aliens, but I think it's in that same ballpark of like, you know what I mean? Like
of how I guess it makes the world less scary if you can kind of like give everything a meaning, right? Of like,
I don't know. I guess it adds like, I don't know. I feel like it's a form of romanticizing the world, you know, of like, there's still some mystery, you know, we haven't explained everything, you know, there's somebody hiding in the shadows, you know, it romanticizes the world a little bit. I'm surprised. You guys were more skeptical than I thought you were gonna be. I thought you guys would be like, "Oh my god,
Today's not the day, bro.
I know
Today's not the
today's
day.
not the day." Man. Oh, anyways, but I guess the last thing I say is that I think it's interesting that this is one of the few guys that I've seen nobody really pulls out that he's crazy card.
I did. I pulled out the he's crazy card.
But like
He's
actual,
mentally
like
ill.
like people with credentials. No, I'm just kidding. No, yeah, they'll just point out the flaw that he doesn't have any evidence, and that because Dr. Grande does that. He says he's like aliens traveled all this way, but they just crash. Like they're just incompetent pilots. Like they always crash. But yeah, I guess that's it.
That's funny. This is like the most you're saying. Like this is the most credible story I've brought yet, and it's the one where I'm like, man, this shit is fake.
I brought up more fantastical stories. And you guys are like, whoa, I don't know, that one's crazy, and I was like, all right, this one's
This
pretty.
one?
It's because I have been drinking in those.
This is the one.
Well, I
This
mean,
is sober
I
me.
wouldn't
This is
say
the
this is
one.
the one, but this I'd say is the guy who's the most credible.
We switched. For once, Brandon's the one who's like, I don't know, guys. Maybe
No, I don't. I feel like I'm only doing that for the segment because I'm like, well, if everybody's like, nah, fake. I
They're
guess we'll move
doing
on.
this. They launched this guy so that they can launch Project Bluebeam.
I feel like Project Bluebeam is dumb as fuck. I've never understood that.
But that's why they dropped him so they can slowly.
But
like,
we didn't even unite under COVID, and
That's why there's a whole hype with aliens because they're trying to like they throw that to you on your social media.
But like with COVID, like it's not only that we
they didn't prepare us for COVID.
No, but like we didn't. But that's like a common enemy, and we didn't even unite. And it's not like we had to like go to war. We just had to put on a mask, and everybody's like, "Fuck no." And I feel like with Project Bluebeam, people already have their minds made up. The fact that conspiracy exists goes to show that people wouldn't unite because there's already people who heavily believe that conspiracy. So that if aliens ever do show up for reals, they're gonna be like, nah, fake, you know. So I'm like, I feel like you guys don't see like
fake.
the people who make the sound. I feel like you guys aren't seeing the like. You know what I mean?
the
Like,
irony.
the
in
irony
there.
of what you're doing. You know, like if aliens do show up, you guys are gonna be like, nah.
I know, right? Just like out of pure coincidence, imagine if aliens showed up
And
like,
they are like actual aliens.
a lot of people in the US gonna be like, man, this is fake as fuck as they get vaporized.
Yeah, you know.
Oh wow, you're paid. I didn't know he was my neighbor. I didn't know he was a paid actor.
Nice hologram. And then it's like, you know, that's
What's the like small tail the boy who cried wolf?
yeah.
It's kind of like that.
Yeah.
No, that's true. That's
No,
a pretty good
definitely,
analogy. The boy who cried alien.
The boy who cried alien.
The government's been crying aliens, but finally when they show up, we're like, nah.
I feel like the people have been crying.
Yeah, the
alien.
people. I feel like the government's like, what?
The government keeps telling us like, no,
No, bro.
motherfucker, this isn't real. I bet you they have.
And they're like, no, you're supposed to say that.
Yeah, right. I mean, like, I don't know. My theory on this guy is I genuinely just think he wants like money. Like, I don't know. I don't.
The truth comes out.
Well, because the whole credibility thing, I've always thought that was kind of flawed too, right? Where people be like, no offense to like anyone who is credible, but like when people will say like, oh, but this pilot saw it, and like, why would like if anyone knows, the sky is them, and it's like it reminds me of like back in the day when like Columbus saw manatees and thought they were like mermaids. Who knew the seas better than a sailor, you know? But they went out there and fucked manatees, like, you know. But now we look back and we're like, bro, like dumb.
That's
Like,
an amazing analogy, dude.
you know. So I'm
Yeah.
like, I don't know. I feel like
Wow, do you see? You keep convincing me more and more aliens aren't real. Because that's an amazing analogy. We're talking about like fighter pilots, right? That are always like, oh, I've seen UFOs. I swear, like they fly by us all the time. It's like, yeah, but sailors used to fuck manatees and think they were mermaids.
yeah, you know. Well, I guess with that, I'm always like, there's always like Columbus himself, I think, did it.
You've never heard of that?
I don't know what manatees are.
Manatees.
You don't know what a manatee is? You've
She
seen a
doesn't-
manatee.
It's
they
this is a classic signature Julissa moment.
Do they not have manatees at the aquarium?
I don't know.
She probably doesn't care.
It's a walrus.
A walrus?
Just kidding.
Um,
I see sea lions.
No, yeah, but I guess with like fighter pilots and shit like that, I'm always like, maybe there's something that like the gravity does to like the brain, and it like makes you hallucinate.
Yeah,
They would fuck
manatees.
these.
Well,
They
yeah. I
were
mean,
mermaids?
Well, okay, give it like not justifying what they did, but keep in mind their perspective. Some of these guys would be at sea for years, only
Yes.
being around
So they hallucinate.
vast oceans. Yeah,
well,
yeah.
malnourished.
Yeah, they get
around
scurvy.
Scurvy. You know,
Um,
they've also never seen this animal before.
Wild.
They had no idea what it was.
Yeah, and and then famously, like sometimes they'd run out of water, and even though obviously if you can't drink seawater,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
at that point if you're dying of thirst, you drink some. Seawater is known to cause hallucinations, so that's where a lot of people say the idea of mermaids and sirens and all that stuff comes from. Comes from a bunch of malnourished, dying sailors who were
Folklores.
basically seeing all these animals and
Folktales.
were like, "This is what would you say?
Folk tales.
Fuck tales?
Folk tales.
Oh, folk tales.
Yeah, here's the quote. On January 9th, 1493, explorer Christopher Columbus, sailing near what is now the Dominican Republic, sees the 3 mermaids, in reality manatees, and describes them as not half as beautiful as they are painted. So yeah, he said they were mermaids.
He's like, wow, these mermaids are ugly. I was ready to fuck a mermaid. He's probably
Yeah.
mad disappointed, bro.
No, yeah, but I don't know. I thought that case was interesting. I think I did too good of a job of never be too good at your job, I guess, and then 'cause you'll be out of a job, you know.
You did too good
You'll
of a
be
job.
out of a job.
You'll be out of a job.
They're still interesting, you know. They still spook me. Like,
Well, I mean, I feel like
I don't deny.
I will say this. I feel like they don't really get more the UFO ones that I've seen. They don't really get. I mean, they get like there's interesting ones, but in terms of like the person who's like at the center, they don't come more credible than this guy. I guess you know what I mean.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah.
The rest are like civilians, right?
Yeah,
Like,
they're always like John Doe and shit, and they're like, oh.
So what makes him credible is that because he actually works for the government.
What makes him credible is he's saying he worked. He's saying he saw documents at his job, and he did work that job. Like his job was to investigate UFOs,
Mhm.
like his official title.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
and the government was like, "Yep, that was his job." And he's saying like, "I found them too. Like we found them, and I found the documents, and like they're covering shit up."
man, watch us be wrong. Watch us like an alien invasion happens fucking like a year from
Well,
now.
I'm
like,
interested-
oh my god, we were
well-
so wrong.
Well, I guess because he's credible, right? I kind of feel for the guy, right? Because nobody believes him.
Some people do. Some people are like, "See, oh my gosh, it's finally happening. The government's finally growing a pair."
But I guess in a way, it's also like their documents. Anyone can fake a document.
I don't know. He doesn't even have the people say is he doesn't even have the documents. It's just why he's not under arrest.
Yeah,
He's just saying like
he just read
I
them.
saw them. Like
You read them.
you're gonna have to take my word for it. I read them.
What do you want me to
Yeah.
What
say?
do you want me to say? I'm
That's
not trying
why.
to
That's
go
why
to
I'm like,
you know?
I don't know.
He describes
Uh,
the paper.
Mm-hmm.
It
But
felt
yeah,
just like paper.
It wasn't.
The
it wasn't white. It was a slight yellow.
Yeah.
He's reaching at straws.
You should have seen the words they used. The font too. Oh my god.
It's the traditional font they use.
Times
That's
New
how I knew it was real. Times New Roman.
Times New
It's the
Roman.
font everybody uses.
I'm interested to see what the hearing comes up with though. Like what he does. Like if he it'd be cool if like at the hearing he drops like a bunch of papers. Like he was, you know, he's like, see,
The
boom,
facts.
bada bing, bada
Then,
boom.
but they are gonna investigate it.
According to the news, yeah, they're investigating.
You know what pisses me off? Not to go back about the Las Vegas the Las Vegas UFOs.
Yeah.
Is that what pisses me off? Is that the way they describe the aliens, the people who apparently saw it,
10 feet tall?
that they not that, but they said that they had big heads with like the big eyes, and I was like, bro, what? The traditional way of like
But that's
seeing
how everyone
aliens?
sees them, no? That's how every story.
But I mean,
is.
that's so like bro, like just okay. I'll calm down. Just think about life itself here on the planet. How many species are similar to us? Where they're like this Homo erectus figure that have like human appendages and a head. Like we have the primates, but beyond that, does a cat look like a fucking human? Does a fucking elephant look like a fucking human? Does a tiger look like a human? So you're telling me somewhere out in the galaxy, just by pure chance, aliens happen to be similarly structured to
Pretty
humans.
much identical. The
Right.
humans.
That doesn't make any fucking sense. Like just
exaggerated human features.
just not even science on a math level of statistics. It's like next to impossible. The math is not there. Like it doesn't make any sense. So when they were describing them, I immediately was like,
It's 'cause
you guys are lying.
It's
Come on.
well, I believe me, I don't believe this, but the like the copium people take around that is that, all right, there's like 3. Okay, one of them, it's because they're not aliens, they're demons, which give me a fucking break. No, that's not true. 2 is that they're not from outer space, they're from Earth. They're from like inner Earth. I see that a lot.
What?
Yeah. 3 is like Prometheus, where it's because we're made in their image. So that's why they come around to check up on us and shit. And them crashing is like staged. It's for them to give us like, it's for them to indirectly give us like steer us or whatever. And then the other one is that they're future humans. They're people from the future.
No,
You don't like any of those?
I don't like any of those because like the amount of like, dude.
You said 3. There was 3. That was like 5.
That was 4.
Dude, I'm telling you, if you ever want to like question like an alien story, bring it down a few levels to make it very grounded to human levels. We have cold cases that have never been solved where we don't even know like the motives or any theories as to what happened, but yet, oh, we know there's lore about the ancient aliens and how they're the inner Earth.
What was the last one you said?
Which one? Okay, well, I don't know.
They're from the future or the Prometheus one?
They're from
the Prometheus one. That one.
The Prometheus one.
What does that one mean?
Well, that
they're made.
We're made in their image. That people are an experiment made by aliens. The aliens came here. They found like primates, like chimps and stuff, and they're like, oh, that could gel with our DNA. And then that they put their intelligent DNA into like primates, and then we showed up. Like we're an experiment. And the movie Prometheus, Alien, that's like what they say, that like humans are.
Well, yeah, didn't they help us build the pyramids, bro?
It's just remixed Christianity, bro. Come on.
We're made in their image.
Yeah, we're made in their image. Was there also an alien Jesus who died on the cross?
People say Jesus straight up was an alien.
I have heard that one. I've heard that one.
That's in the movie Prometheus too. They heavily imply that Jesus himself was an alien.
Well, because I always think about how like, you know how there's the thing, right? The aliens used to be here too, and like they helped us make the pyramids because they're also on the images in the walls.
Yeah.
I always think about, I kind of, because you were talking about this, I was thinking about that, and I was like, I wonder what happened though. What is it that like, I guess we were friendly with them, and then what happened where we were like, we became, I guess, enemies.
Well, in the lore, I have to. I know.
Go ahead, bro.
I
Let
know.
me know.
I know it because I see all the. I have to do all the research. You know, the people say that it's nuclear bombs. That aliens don't like that we have those. And that every time I forgot what it was, but whenever we would test them, like the UFO, like
sightings
with like spike. And that some people say like they really don't like that because they're peaceful, but that flies in the face of this guy who's like nah, they fucking hate us.
Yeah.
So
well, because again, right? I'm gonna just keep arguing this where it's like if they're that smart and our asses built a fucking
like stupid.
We built a fucking a
atom bomb?
A nuke bomb, like an atom bomb. A nuke bomb.
Yes.
How is it that they don't have something as powerful as
well,
that?
people say
if they're smart,
people say they do have them. It's just that they don't think we should. Like they think that we're too irresponsible for that kind of power.
Oh, and they're responsible.
Is in the lore. In the lore.
That we're a bunch of dumb fucking kids, bro.
That we're just monkeys. And
we wouldn't know what to do with all that.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Okay. I don't know. For me, like, I'm telling you, if you read enough, and you're like, you're competent of mind, they lose me pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Like especially when they say the demon thing. Yeah, oh my God, I've never checked out Fast and Furious.
No, but that's what I'm like. I guess in a way I'm trying to be understanding, but at the same time it's kind of like I don't know, bro. Like if aliens are really that smart, I don't know. I feel like we'd be in their control by now.
I feel like if they're that smart and they don't want to be seen, they're not going to be seen.
Yeah.
Like, I think, like I said, I always say, I believe in aliens. I think there's aliens out there, but I don't think they come here, and they probably have never been here. And if they did, they probably because think about how people act with other civilizations who are uncontacted. There's laws against it. There's uncontacted civilizations that don't have the technology we have, and there's laws against interfering with that.
Yeah.
And aliens are much smarter and much more responsible. I'm pretty sure they'd probably be like, they'd probably freak out if we showed up. Like, they're still racist. they probably wouldn't get it. You know?
Yeah. Is there space rules?
You know, there's lore.
There actually is.
Lore.
Isn't there a thing called galaxy? No.
Well,
the Galactic Federal Government?
Yeah.
Please. Let's not speak ill of them. If we're scared of the United States government, I wouldn't speak ill of the Galactic
it's that
Federation.
Do they meet? So then, do they meet up with aliens?
Are you gonna make me do this? Okay. So from what I've read, from what I've seen,
from when I studied in my studies in university,
from my years of research, from the YouTube video I saw,
from this meme I saw.
So you know how you know how people say that the government is lizard people?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
That connects. Mm-hmm. That weirdly connects, right? Okay. So the lizard people are an alien race, but they're the bad guys. And there's I think there's 9 known races or some shit.
Okay.
And one of the most popular is the Greys, I think. And those are the little dudes that we see. The ones with the big heads. They're a species. They're like but I think the Galactic Federation is super pro peace. And the lizard people are anti peace or whatever.
Okay.
But there's a legal loophole that they take advantage of. And that's subliminal messages. So something about how you know how people say that the government leaves subliminal messages in media, where they'll joke about we're controlling you, or or like Men in Black, where they make fun of Men in Black. They say that the legal loophole in the the Galactic Federation, or whatever the fuck it is that if you tell the species that you're controlling them, their hands are tied. They can't do anything about that. And that's why the lizard people or the Illuminati or whatever, they give us subliminal messages. So pretty dumb, but that's the lore.
That's the explanation to everything.
Okay.
But it makes me almost mad, bro.
How dumb it is?
Yeah, cause it's not. No offense. I hope if you're a strong believer and you're a listener or viewer of us, I hope I don't offend you. But I just think it makes me mad because people believe it so strongly.
There's a cat race, I think, too.
A cat race?
The Galactic. What is it?
I don't know. Is it called?
It's called the Intergalactic Federation, United Federation or something.
Oh, and I think supposedly the people in power who are people and not lizard people, they know about it, and that they have they're in cahoots, or I don't know. It
every president meets
there's a picture of them holding hands with the lizard people or whatever.
Supposedly I think the United States is the most obsessed with UFOs in the entire world, though.
No,
I think we have the most documented reports of UFOs in any other place in the world.
No, I saw on TikTok there's a map of all cases, and literally the rest of the world is pretty much dark. It's dark, and the United States is lit up. Well, I guess that's where that joke comes from, that aliens always land in the U.S.
Yeah. Well, it's because of Roswell. Did you know that?
Really?
And Roswell, when it came out, there was this huge UFO craze, and that's where people started coming out with theme parks, plushies, TV shows. It inspired writers, and to this day, that's why the UFO craze is still big in the United States.
I think it's because also movies and media. I think The Day the Earth Stood Still, that one's a big one. Or what's that one that people heard on the radio?
That's that one. Oh no, War of the Worlds.
War of the Worlds. People.
Oh, right behind you, Julie.
Yeah. War of the Worlds, the one behind you. That one. They played it on the radio, and I don't know, people I guess heard it and thought that was real. They were like, "Oh my god," this is happening. There's the Battle of Los Angeles that happened.
Yeah.
So shit
the
that.
Day the Earth Stood Still. That's not an alien movie, is it?
Mm-hmm.
It is.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. You never seen it? There's the reboot with Keanu Reeves, and then there's the original. But I think after the
Keanu
original,
Reeves? Really? I thought it was Nicolas Cage. I'm thinking probably The Happening.
no, look
or
at
something.
it. Look at
The-
it.
the
No, yeah.
Oh, you know, yeah. We have technology.
The Knowing, or what is it?
The Knowing. No, yeah, but the United States has always been kind of obsessed with that.
Oh yeah, you're right. It's Keanu Reeves.
Um,
Damn, 20% Rotten Tomatoes.
no, yeah,
Yikes.
it's pretty bad. But yeah, I mean,
That-
well, I guess from now, I guess I officially have to move on from aliens because you guys are convinced.
I maybe do spirits and
I'll
stuff.
d-
I'm not
What?
convinced.
I'll be like, you
I'm
you
not
don't
convinced.
you don't believe.
Give me on a good day. Maybe I'll be
You don't
like,
believe aliens, but you
what?
believe spirits.
Sometimes.
That's true.
Yeah,
Maybe
yeah.
I'll do Bigfoot or cryptids. I don't know.
I think no. I think you go with the UFOs. I think the aliens.
Nah, I'm kind of bored of them now. I feel like
They fell off.
I wouldn't say they fell off, but I'm such a skeptic that every time I watch it, I'm always like, nah. Like, I don't believe this.
I also think this is like, especially because we were kind of like, no. I think yeah. I think
It's
this
time
is
to
the
move on.
official. Like,
also, like I said, I doesn't really get more credible than this guy. Like,
Yeah.
like for NASA themselves would have to like be like, you know what? There's aliens for me to have to come back to this. Unless I don't know, the fans like it and they're
It's-
like, no,
yeah, true.
please.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
bring back more. Leave it in
know.
the comments. Do
Yeah.
you guys still want Brandon to keep bringing these up?
Yeah. There's actually somebody who commented last week who said they wanted you to investigate a UFO case. They
Really?
needed a specialist like
Oh,
you.
they needed me.
yeah,
deep
yeah,
dive?
yeah. So some people seem to like it. So
Maybe I'll do.
maybe it's like a relationship. We gotta give each other some space and
Mhm.
then
Yeah,
see
yeah.
if we're still
do
committed.
Bigfoot.
I'll do Bigfoot. You guys want Bigfoot? I'll-
Bigfoot's a throwback. Bigfoot we went through when we had the radio show.
Yeah.
But
What's
Julie?
another one? Oh, the Loch Ness monster.
The chupacabra.
Oh, the
there's
chupacabra.
a lot, bro.
That one comes up a lot because I tried to find stuff that was like Mexico themed,
Mm-hmm.
but oh my god, bro! Like try to find anything. If you try, everything's just chupacabra,
La Llorona.
La Llorona.
And I'm like, but there's never like I like incidents. Like I like with the Brazil one where like something happens. That's like you know what I mean. Not some like my grandpa's uncle. he one time told me this. You know, it's like
And it,
I don't
like-
care.
I'm
It's-
dead.
Like, I wa-
You fuck. I was literally about to tell a story like that. I was like, Julie, do you remember when we were kids? We were in Mexico.
No, tell me what is it? What is it? What is it?
It was like this thing, like it was called, I think, like the crocodile or some shit, and how like it like at night it like eats kids. I remember our older cousin told me. I don't think you were there.
A crocodile?
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
crocodile's
No, like a
real?
crocodile human, like a crocodile,
Oh, like Killer Croc.
yeah, exactly like that. Yeah, that it like eats kids like when they're like walking at night by
It
themselves.
eats kids when they're being naughty.
Yeah, so that's why I was like, never mind. You don't want to listen to this. You just said you hate those. Man, I fucking hate when people give me
I like 'em,
personal
but
life stories.
I like them, but I feel like I never believe them because it's like, bro, your brothers, sisters, cousins, dog's cousin told you that. Like, come on, bro. But
Not
when
even
there,
you.
but when there's like an incident, it's like, all right, well, at least there's like something like on the books. It's not just like
There's
he
a
said-
picture or something.
it's not just he said, she said. Because I
Yeah.
feel like I could just do that. I could be like, you know what, I saw an alien last night, and what's the difference between that? But anyways, next.
Yeah, Julie,
next
what do you got
subject.
for
What do you
us
got,
for
Julie?
this week?
Well, since we were talking about Mexico,
Wow.
so I did a little research just because I was, I don't know, I was just curious since I've always heard. I don't know if you guys have heard what La China Poblana is. So
little
it's a
bit.
big thing in Mexico, and kind of just like if you're Mexican, it's kind of like it's kind of a style. It's like a fashion style. So basically, it's like it's known to be like wearing like dresses that are like super like embroidered, sequences. It's developed through like time now that like it represents a lot of like Mexico. So usually it's always like white, red, or green. But I was more curious as to where it came from because like I always used to hear just stories about her. And like I would see pictures, and my mom used to have like I think a calendar of her. And at least one story that I used to hear was that I think they just called her China Poblana because she's like mainly from Puebla, which is like a city in like Mexico. And it was basically that she just had really curly hair, and that's why they called her like she had the curliest hair, so they just called her China Poblana because her hair was just really curly. But I was like, I feel like I've heard that there's a little more to her. So then I did a little bit of research. And so La China Poblana is basically mainly, it reverbs from Puebla. So shout out to Puebla because our parents are from Puebla. And just to give a little history, I guess, of Puebla. So Puebla is like in like central South Mexico. Puebla is known to the world as the city where Mexico defeated the French on May 5th, 1862, to eventually win its second independence.
That's where we got the Cinco de Mayo from,
Yeah, that's
right?
where we got Cinco de Mayo. So in Puebla, for the most part, I mean, here they celebrate it or whatever. But in Mexico, only like Puebla kind of celebrates it because they defeated the French.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a small town too, so they're very prideful that they were small and they were able to beat the French. Yeah,
Yeah, they were the underdogs.
basically. Yeah,
I think even they were outmanned. No, do you know the stats? Right?
Yeah, because they were already living in their areas. But I guess the people were like, no, fuck y'all, like we're not gonna house y'all anymore. So they ended up like fighting them, and that's how they lost.
They're just like me. They're just like me.
And so yeah, for Mexican people, Puebla is known as a great place to enjoy delicious varieties of mole poblano, which is sauces made with chocolate and spices, usually poured over chicken. So I think we've mentioned mole before. And it's just like a little, I guess, fun facts about like Puebla. That's just like a small like signature food that they have there. And so yeah, so basically, yeah, like China Poblana is seen as like a brightly embroidered like folklorico dress. It's mainly from Puebla, so that's how it's kind of like, because every different city has like their own style of like their folklorico dresses. And so what I learned about like La China Poblana is that she was actually an Asian woman who lived in Puebla. She came to Mexico in 1620 as a servant and left her mark on the tradition of Spanish colonial regions with her clothing. So basically, the legend is that she basically was kidnapped from like India, and she was brought to, I guess, to be a slave in the Philippines. And then from there, she was brought to Acapulco in Mexico, where she got the attention of a wealthy like Spanish merchant, and who purchased her. And then from there, I think her name is Mira. I think that's how you spell it. Mirra. Mira. And then she was taken to Puebla. And for there, she like lived there and she worked there as a servant. And then eventually, I think it gets a little like, I guess, blurry from there what happened. But eventually, I guess she ends up marrying like a guy. Supposedly, one of the versions is that she ends up marrying a guy who's actually Chinese. Is a Chinese man. And that's why they start assuming that she's also Chinese. So then that's where like China Poblana comes from. But the other version is that that was one, right? And then the other version is that like, because the Indian like clothing and like it's all very embroidered and like sequences, she started mixing that with like the Spanish and also like the indigenous like clothing. So then that's kind of like where the style now comes from. And I thought it was interesting because now it's like a heavily inspired thing, and there's even like a statue of her in Puebla. And just like overall, like the origins of her is like, it's cool. It's cool to like hear about her because it shows a lot of like the diversity, because there's a lot of like background to it, right? Because she's Asian, right? Or like she's from India. And then from there, like she gets brought here, which she starts to influence the culture here in Mexico. And then from there, it just gets built up even more of like just her sequences and all that. And I started doing just like a little more research of like just, I guess, what to take on like her valuable like lessons and like insights of her. And I guess the biggest thing is that like cultural diversity. Because I feel like I've always really, really liked her because of how she has been designed to be like, like morenita, and like my mom actually used to dress me in like those types of clothings before. So I kind of just grew up like that, and seeing like that type of representation. And to know that it's very just like culturally diverse within just her story, I thought was really cool, because I've always felt, personally for me, I've always wanted to be a lot more inclusive and diverse with even the people that I surround myself. I've always wanted to learn about different cultures, and like just because I personally grew up just mostly being surrounded by like a lot of like the Latino community and just like Mexicans overall. And not until like high school and a little bit more in college that I started meeting more people from different cultural backgrounds, that it made me even more interesting to know something else other than just my own culture. And the other part is like resilience and just like I can't say that word.
Adaptation?
Like adaptability. I can't say it.
Adaptility?
Yeah. Yeah. Adaptility. Yeah. I think that's how you say it, right?
I would have to see the word.
But like just like being able to adapt and like resilience, right? So China Poblana's journey from India to Mexico as a slave and her subsequent adaptation to a new life, I think exemplifies resilience and adaptability.
Adaptability. Yeah.
Okay.
Adaptability.
Yeah. So I don't know. That's why I was like, I don't know how to pronounce it.
You got it.
Yeah. And just her, I guess that's like another, I guess, significant like lesson from her is that like her ability to adapt to new surroundings, like learning new languages. The sad part is that she was like taken, you know, and she was brought here. Yeah. So she was a slave. She was a servant. And just like her identity overall is what like is also like a great representation because of all the blends of different cultures. And I thought that was really cool just to like learn about like that history of her and how there's just different things that just kind of created us. 'Cause it's again, like it was her lifestyle, her design, her like fashion. And then that inspired what was there at the time. And then that also takes part of like the indigenous clothing too, is what she inspired. And then it kind of just all blended together to create one thing. And it derives from like a place where like we grew up. So I thought that was really cool. I was like, wow, like this is really cool. And like, I feel it has a lot more significance now than like before. Cause like how I said, I feel like I grew up with that. And I remember I had a dress that like was red and then it had like a sequence of the eagle and like with the snake on it. And I thought that was really cool. And it's kind of like a folklore, kind of also like a kind of like mythology. And so I don't know. I thought it was really cool to like learn about it and
because she's like a trendsetter, right? So like the way her fashion was transcends decades to even right now, some people still dress that way, right?
Yeah, as people still dress like that, and then also just having like the ribbons in your hair too. Recently I've started buying like ribbons, so I want to try to do that again because mom used to do that to me. So like my mom used to always like braid my hair with like ribbons and stuff. I can't do it as much now because I have short hair, but I'm still like trying to like incorporate a little bit more of that. And I don't know, I guess it also reminded me of how I kind of want to start going back to like those things where like mom used to actually dress me in those ways.
Your like indigenous roots.
Yeah,
that's
like
cool.
I feel like this mainly is the start of it, and this mainly is what has been like getting me to be like, okay, like I've been there before, like I've been doing it. And it was just like a little reminder of it, of like trying to be a little more attached to like my cultural roots and like my cultural background and stuff. Cause there's a lot to it. And I feel like it really, I guess, resonated the fact that it was just like, it's a representation of different cultures. Mm-hmm. And I think that's something that I've been trying to look for a cool bit of like trying to understand different cultures and trying to also show off that like, I also accept people from different backgrounds and like I'm very accepting and very inclusive of that. And this is like a big symbol. So I low-key, when I was doing the research, I was fangirling again. Because you know how I fangirled about like La Virgen? I was like, this for sure, like I was like fangirling about it again. Because I was like, wow, like, this is cool.
La China Poblana.
Yeah, so I thought it was really cool to like see that. And
do you ever find it hard to reconnect with like some of your culture?
Reconnect. I feel like this is what is helping me again to kind of like reconnect with it, because I think just growing up and like, yeah, mom used to dress me, and now I kind of just dress myself and kind of just found my own way to like do stuff. I feel like because of that fact that I was just growing up, I kind of lost that like connection. But now I feel reading this and like I am trying to like incorporate it a little bit more into like my, like how I dress or like like I remember I wore the, you know how they have like those embroidered shirts with like all the like the flowers. I don't know if you guys have ever seen them, but it's like embroidered shirts with like just flowers all over them. They're always colorful, and they're different material. They're not like, you know, like our shirt, like super like thin kind of material. I actually started wearing them to work. Like every time I show up to work, I start wearing them. Cause for work I have to like show up just in like regular clothing, and then I change to my uniform. I started wearing them, and like I feel like I'm trying to incorporate, like I'm trying to mix it. Like I wore it, and then I tucked it in with like my diggy pants, and and then I put my jean jacket on, and I was like, I'm trying to like incorporate it back into like my lifestyle, where it's like I'm trying to mix it with like the lifestyle or like the style of what I have here to like the style that's over there. And I feel like I've been slowly trying to like reconnect with all that. And this for sure was like a big, I guess, reminder of like, it's been there. I just need to like do it myself kind of thing. And kind of just like remind myself of that.
Well, because I think when it comes to clothing, I feel as though there's like this historical context of like you need to be seen as like you. Like when we were talking about like a few weeks ago about like Cholo and Pachuco culture, I like that idea of it's bold and it's like bright and it's like flashy because they wanted you to see like this is like it was a rebellious act against like the norm, right, of the idea of assimilation.
Yeah.
So that's cool that you're saying you're bringing it to work because I don't know if you think about it that deeply, but in my head it's like it's a rebellious act against like assimilation. It's against like wanting to go to the status quo that you are just now this other Americano when you're that's not really I don't think that really represents you. At least from what I've known you, I feel like if I thought of an American, you wouldn't be the first person I picture in my head.
Yeah, and I feel like to me, in a weird way, I feel like I have been trying to find like a kind of like a symbol to kind of like how do I say it? Like kind of guide me to going back to my culture, right? And that's why I think I wanted to do research on this because I feel like I've heard about it. I mean, Mom used to always like talk about it, or like she had like a picture of her on there. And to know that it genuinely comes from a place where like Mom and Papi grew up, kind of like where I also grew up because we used to go there all the time. And I feel like there's just like just to let everyone know, I feel like there's just a big like significance here for me. Like I feel like this is like a very like personal thing where like I generally feel like this is helping me a lot to like reconnect with myself. But that's why like I wanted to do research on it because I was like, wow, like this is cool. Like it was also to me like a reminder of like my culture and how I want to reconnect to it.
Why do you feel the need to reconnect?
Because I feel like I want to, especially when we're doing this, like I want to represent like my people and specifically like to know that this is from like where Mom and Papi are from and like just show that representation a lot more. Show it because I feel like I've always gone through this crisis of like an identity crisis where it's like, oh, like I remember before growing up, they used to be like, oh, like I used to say I was Mexican American, right? And people were like, oh, well, who's American in your family? And I was like, well, I was born here, but my parents are Mexican. So that's why I personally would say Mexican American. So then people would be like, no, you're just Mexican. And I'd be like, okay, then I'm just Mexican then. And then eventually, you know, like now there's that whole thing of like, well, you can say like you're Chicano or like all that stuff. Or like now we're learning more of like, you're also indigenous. So to me, I was like, there's just a lot of like, I guess, labeling that I kind of don't fully understand. And I just wanted to do like a little more research onto like one side of it, which is like La China Poblana, right? Knowing who she is, learning like her symbol of that. And like, to me, I was more like, because I didn't know what to identify with, I was kind of starting to lose that connection because I was like, I don't know anymore. Like, I don't really know who I am anymore, like what my history is anymore. Like, I kind of started having like, I didn't really care about it anymore. I was kind of like, oh, it's just me. Like, I just live here. And
were you satisfied with that?
I feel like I was chilling. Like, I was more like, I didn't really care anymore.
What brought the change?
I think it was just me wanting to like, I guess find myself a little bit more and find what I guess my passions I used to be. Because I feel like when mom used to throw this at me, I feel like at first I wasn't like super into it, but then eventually like I kind of grew up and I started loving it. Like I started loving like folklorico and like just like the music and everything that I kind of just grew up on. I started like enjoying it a lot more. And then now I'm kind of like I want to learn more. Like I want to kind of figure myself out and kind of reconnect with my younger self, I guess, in a way.
Do you remember what mom told us recently when she made guacamole? Do you remember when she was talking? We asked her like, where does it come from, or where's it at? And she was telling us how it's like a recipe that's been passed down like generations of our family.
Yeah.
And did that hit different, especially because now you're trying to reconnect?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like that gave me more of a reason to learn how to cook now.
Yeah.
Because the fact that I've always been like super rebellious on like, especially learning how to cook. And her saying that, I feel like, yeah, like, I think it makes me want to like learn more now to like learn how to cook, especially like the recipes. Especially because mom makes the mole, like, and like that's the iconic thing. And I really want to learn. I feel like the thing that sometimes discourages me is the fact that like I feel like I'm not gonna make it as good as she does it. And I think that's what kind of like gets me sometimes, where I'm like, man, I can't. I won't be able to do it, but I'm like that's my mom. I'm like she'll teach me properly how to do it, and like it's funny, especially when she makes like the rice, cause she'll tell me how she does it, and then she'll like cover it, and then the way it works is like she puts a lot of like liquid in it, and then she like covers it so then like the it kind of like evaporates, and then there's no liquid in there anymore, and then it's just like the rice is there, and the whole time I was like, wow. Science. Yeah. The whole time, but I always think it's just like, yeah, I feel like now more like I want to do those things, and I think it's cool because it's kind of like I'm kind of just discovering those things myself. It isn't like any more of mom like forcing me to like learn those things. It's more of like this is my own thing, and it'll be cool because I feel like especially now it'll be, since mom will teach me how to cook, it'll be like another bonding time with her.
Yeah.
So it'll be nice. I feel like it'll be nice to also like reconnect with her and like reconnect with the culture and just like everything overall.
It's funny too, because when she said that to you, I remember I almost was like, damn, like I know like cooking's like a girl thing, but just that aspect of it makes it sound so cool to learn, that my mom was literally saying that it's a recipe that's been passed down generations. So if she doesn't teach it to anybody, it'll literally die with her. And she said that.
She said that.
Yeah, she literally said it's gonna die with her. And so like I thought I was like, damn, like it kind of makes me like I'm still down to cook. Like I'm not a misogynist. At least I don't think so. So I'd be down to cook just because like I like that aspect of like it's basically like, I mean, we have an indigenous descent, like we have indigenous roots, so it's for sure been passed down a long time. Especially because we're talking about Puebla. Puebla is known for their mole. Yeah. So it's definitely something that for sure is probably so old.
Well, because now it's also learning about like there's just a lot of history there of like, because of the fact that, you know, when we were colonized, there was just certain things that we were limited to. And then there's certain recipes that we had to create to do that, right? So there's like, even in the food and everything, just overall with like how people dress, the food, everything, there's like something, there's history there. There's a story there that is like, to me, is really inspiring of like, I need to keep that going, right? I can't lose that part of myself. I can't keep losing that part of myself. And I think that's why I've been wanting to like reconnect with everything and just find something to kind of like pick up back on that. And I feel like learning about like La China Poblana and all that has like really inspired me to kind of like pick that back up. And like to start over and like do my research and like, you know, blend my life together again and kind of like find myself again. So I don't know, it's been cool.
Yeah, it's interesting. It reminds me of a little bit of how like just hearing about the history reminds me of like how history repeats itself sometimes. Like I think about like how we take these indigenous people who used to live back like where Puebla is, and then like obviously carnage came, and then like it erased like what was there. It reminds me of like here in Los Angeles, the modern of like gentrification this used to be Mexico. I mean, maybe the name gave you a hint, like Los Angeles. Like maybe give you a hint that there used to be some indigenous people here.
Yeah.
And then now modern day gentrification, people come in. You see all these articles about they paint over the murals, they paint over the history, and it's just crazy to me that like I guess it emphasizes your point that it's important to understand and reconnect with your roots, because that's how you then address like what's going on in the modern day, and you can move accordingly. Either you'll be, I don't give a fuck, like there's people out there who will be like, I don't give a fuck, I'm gonna do my own thing, right? Or there'll be some people who are like, no, like it's important that like I continue to push forward this legacy and these generations of like traditions or like recipes or fashion or whatever it is. Like, and this is really cool. This is a really cool segment. I'm really fucking with it. No, yeah, but that's
and
cool.
also because I was like, I wanted to bring it up because of the fact that like, we're here and we're also very diverse. Like we always tell Brandon about it. We're like, oh, there's a folklore of someone who's Asian and like they're from Puebla and like
Chinese descendants, right?
Yeah.
And then Brandon's Chinese descendants too. And then isn't that
she
weird?
married a Chinese man.
So she's not Chinese.
No, she's from
She's
like
from India?
India. Yeah. That there's basically like her dressing, like she brought like her clothing and everything. And you've seen like how like they have like all the colorful dressing over there, and that's what she kind of blended with here. And that's kind of like how she became, and now she's an icon and like everyone dresses like her and all that. So I thought it was like a huge thing to like bring up and to just show the diversity here.
You get it, bro? Because then you're gonna be an icon, or you know what, you are an icon. and then I just think it's trippy because it's like Puebla too. It's like, bro, it was written in the stars that we would meet each other somehow. Yeah,
Interesting.
Wholesome moment. Top
Crazy,
5 wholesome moment.
Crazy moment, huh?
He's like, anyway.
He doesn't care.
I care.
Sad.
I'm just listening.
You're educating him, Julie.
And to me it was just like the name drops of like places that she was like, because they were like, she was from India and then she got taken to the Philippines, and then from the Philippines she went to Acapulco, and then from Acapulco she went to Puebla, and it was just like, damn, so many.
I know all these places.
I've talked about all these places.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was cool to like learn about her.
It's cool.
There's a lot of it's basically like a mix of Asian and indigenous Mexican heritage.
Wow, I love it, bro. That's our vibe.
Yeah,
that's literally, you could puld that as a description, right?
That'll be our symbol. She'll be on our logo now.
I didn't know she was a person. I thought it was like.
Oh yeah, because for those of you who are not from LA, if you guys ever want to eat a bomb semita place, I hope they don't blow up. Actually, I do hope they blow up. I'll just have to wait longer in line. But there's this bomb semita place in like Boyle Heights near like East LA, called La China Poblana. Ooh,
their semitas are bomb.
Yeah,
I didn't know that they had lore behind.
I
thought that was just her thing, Like it's like if next week you're like, did you guys know King Taco? Like,
I was gonna say, did you know Colonel Sanders? He was actually like a person.
He was though, right?
Yeah, so I guess it's kind of the same.
It's like if you were I'm telling you, it's like if you're like King Taco, like the guy.
You never heard of Mr. Taco?
Like,
Mr. Taco.
He ruled in.
Tacos are named after him.
King Taco. Raul, what's his name? Raul Martinez.
Is that really his name? Any
Raul.
Raul Martinez.
Probably not.
Maybe distant cousin.
Third
Bro,
cousin?
no, I mean, if his last name is Martinez, probably way back in the day. Probably have the same.
You guys have a common
Spaniard
ancestor.
Yeah.
Martinez is a Spain name.
Mm-hmm.
Our indigenous last name is Tepetitla.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool.
Yeah, which means between hills. Fun fact. Yeah. Yeah, I probably didn't even pronounce it right, if I'm being honest. But yeah, it's like, can you say it?
Tepetitla?
It's Tepetitla, right?
It's
Yeah.
Tepetitla.
Yeah, but our Spaniard name that we put on government documents is Martinez, as do most Mexicans. But shout out to King Taco. They're bomb.
Shout out to King Taco.
Sponsor us.
Come on. I grew up with the first ever one.
You see that? That could be you up there. Or Pizza Hut. That could still be you.
Whenever I'm going through it,
or
nothing makes me feel better than
any
horchata.
any brand that could be you.
Yeah,
up there.
any brand, that could be you up there.
Anybody listening? You know what? I'm gonna shoot my shot. This might be a big shot. Drake. if you're listening.
Drake.
LeBron?
LeBron, that could be you on
There's
that.
no way LeBron's listening to this.
There's a Laker flag behind Stevie.
I'm telling you,
Oh,
bro.
maybe he is.
If we ever get LeBron on the podcast, I'm retiring after.
Aw.
Because I can't top that.
Man, we'd have to move this. I don't know. He's so tall, bro. I don't know if he'd fit in here.
I know, right?
On the little couch that we always have.
We're just dreaming, fantasizing.
He'd have to sit crisscross applesauce.
Crisscross applesauce. I'm dead.
You're gonna make the king, bro, sit like that?
Well, because it's like school thing. We'll get him like a carpet.
He'll wear the hat.
that's
He'll wear
cool.
the hat.
Oh, that's cool. Man, would you be mad if I sabotaged it so we didn't get LeBron? Like, he was
Why?
about to show up because you're gonna retire, and so I'm like,
Bruh.
I say some shit, like I leak an audio of like me being like, LeBron sucks, like on purpose, and he's like, I'm taking my talents to
Damn.
To the
IE and
IE?
friends.
I'd be
To
crushed.
IE and friends.
I'd be crushed.
With Vanessa,
I'd
he
be-
comes on IE besties.
Damn. I mean, I'd be like, good for them. But I'd be like, man.
Damn. Brandon would never forgive you.
I know.
I'd be like, what? I just go on IE. Bro, can I be on?
Can I be on?
Vanessa's like, actually, he told me he doesn't want to see you.
Damn.
I'm like, and I'm like, yes.
Then I'd retire. I'd still retire.
Wow.
And then that would be like the story. Because you know how like a movie?
Oh,
like,
yeah.
It's because I thought, you know.
Oh, we
Damn,
have beef.
Stevie.
We
Yeah.
have beef forever for it.
Yeah.
And we could have had him, and then he could have retired.
Yeah.
But
So
instead, we didn't have him,
instead
and
I
he
just
retired.
And
So
I
you-
lost a friend.
so you lost two things. It's like a movie. And then I'd go off and start my own podcast.
It slipped through my hands.
What would I even call it if I were to?
Everything's Brandon. Everything's brand new.
Oh.
He's like writing it.
I'm
on
Just
his phone.
checking my
I'm
messages.
dead.
But you got anything more, Julie?
No, that was basically it.
It was cool. It was really cool. I enjoyed hearing about that. I enjoyed hearing your journey too, your own perspective on it. I think I don't know. It made me feel a lot safer about what I'm gonna talk about next. Well, I'm not gonna talk about anything crazy, but I will say that if anybody is struggling, there is maybe some like triggering stuff that I don't think so, but it's some people sometimes are going through, and I want to be respectful of that aspect. So, to end off this episode is my segment. I just wanted to give this to be like an open forum about men's mental health, because I genuinely do think it is something that is not talked about a lot. You know, you hear a lot of people be afraid. They'll say things like nobody cares about men's mental health. It's like something that people use to rationalize. It's something that men use to rationalize why they won't talk about their feelings. And like, I won't pretend that like, oh, like it's so easy to talk about your feelings. Like, I know it's hard. I completely get it. But what kind of inspired me to have this segment was that I saw this really powerful quote that says that people would rather that you cry on their shoulder than they have to cry at your funeral, right? I don't think it makes you any less of a man to talk about how you feel and to admit that you're struggling mentally. I'd even go so far as to say is to have the courage to admit that something that you're struggling with mentally is something that people wouldn't admit to at all.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, to have the courage to say something like that is something most people are afraid to say.
Yeah.
So in my opinion, it makes you a lot stronger than most of us, even me.
Yeah.
Like,
There's something more powerful in you actually being able to express it because of how hard it is. to
yeah,
express it.
exactly.
Yeah.
Like, that fear just only like it like shows it for you. And I think it's important because it's no secret that like in whether you're a Latino or Latina, it's no secret that there's this big stigma on talking about mental health.
Yeah.
You know, and I even did some research, and one of the stats that I saw was that 30% of Latinos with mental illness receive treatment compared to 43% of non-Latinos. So it goes to show you that, yeah, maybe there's other factors to it, like obviously language barriers, insurance barriers, but you can't lie and deny that there isn't this also negative feeling about expressing how you feel in terms of like Latinos. And there's like these phrases you always hear, like ponte las pilas, or échale ganas, or like, you know, like there's all these phrases that encourage you to just push past it,
Yeah.
that it'll make you stronger. But from my research and from anybody who will ever tell you that's ever struggled mentally, it doesn't get better. It only gets worse if you don't tell people how you feel. And I just wanted to kind of like bring it up because I think if it isn't brought up, that's where a lot of the fear, and it continues to be a hard thing to express. I think the more you talk about it, the easier it becomes. And so I just felt like I wanted to let anybody else know that if they're ever struggling mentally, especially if you're a man, because obviously it's not easy, no matter who you are, to express that you're struggling mentally. Mm-hmm. But I want to give an emphasis on the male audience and anybody who's out there who's a man, that you're not alone. I know I struggle from it. I struggle all the time. Like, I struggle from loneliness. I struggle from fucking sadness, like, all the time. But it only gets worse when you don't, like, say how you feel. Mm-hmm. Like, I wanted it to kind of have this moment to really share with everybody that there's, like, a lot of alternatives before you reach that, like, stage of, like, you want to end your life. Mm-hmm. Like, because I think it hits different because we have family members who would, like, you know, I'm not going to air anybody out, but we have family members who struggle from mental illness, and they have diseases that will make them shake just from, like, anxiety and like, and from depression. And I think if I never bring this up, and I'm glad we'd save this for the end because I know it's a little dark, but if we never bring it up, it never gets easier. Mm-hmm. If you never say how you feel, it'll never feel less scary, you know. And it's scary. I mean, even right now, like, talking about this, like, in the back of my mind, and it's something instinctually is telling me, like, bro, like, relax, like, like, don't talk about this shit. And I researched and I looked up tips to give to people for those of you who are struggling mentally, with some mental health stuff. I specifically looked up things about loneliness because that's what I mainly struggle with. And it was I want to laugh. I guess that's my copium, right? My copium is laughing. It was calling me out. It was saying that, like, people who feel loneliness feel this, like, it's because they feel this sense of, like, lower self-esteem. And I was like, damn, I don't really feel that way. Like, I don't really have ever really felt, like, insecure physically. Yeah. So I was wondering, like, I don't know like where that really comes from, but the alternative they gave me as, like, treatment was that some of the things that help with, like, loneliness is understanding that it's okay to take things slow. So, like, even talking to people, like, if you're struggling, you don't have to immediately let them know that you're going through something that absolutely is fucking crippling you. You can make it go easy. You can, weirdly enough, it sounds bad, but, like, little hints, like, little small things, like, hey, man, like, you want to hang out. Mm-hmm. You want to hang, that's it. You don't have to say anything. You're like, you want to hang out. Or, like, hey, dude, like, what do you think about, like, these type of things? And you maybe just give one thought, one shot in the dark to see how maybe you're, like, feeling. Yeah. This is making sense to you guys? Because I'm telling you, like, I'm really struggling, like, really going full-fledged with it. I really struggle with when it comes to, like, intimacy and, like, saying how you feel. So funny enough, this is kind of my way of, like, trying to get better at it. Mm-hmm. Is that I'm trying to educate other people while also healing this inside of me. Another thing is that that helps you when you're feeling lonely is actually hanging out with your friends. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So funny enough, like, I was feeling pretty down. Yeah. But doing this podcast and being around my sister and Brandon really helping me out. Really made me feel good. Yeah, my bad.
No, you're good. I feel like you saying how kind of, like, reaching out, I think it's hard, but I think one of the biggest things is always, like, not letting yourself stay in that place where, like, yeah, you're sad and you're like, man, like, I wish I could hang out with my friends, right? But I think, like, the biggest, like, one of the steps is always having that initiation of, like, I'll just ask. Like, I'll ask someone. I'll be like, hey, do you want to hang out? Yeah. But sometimes it's hard because you get stuck in your head of, like, maybe they don't want to hang out. Maybe they're busy. Maybe I'm just bothering them. Like, and I think that's just, like, how kind of, like, the sadness is where you can't help to just stick in it, you know? Yeah. And I think in a way, like, those are the big steps that you need to take forward of, like, just ask anyone. Just be like, hey, are you free? Or, like, hey, like, can we hang out? But in just like those small steps, right? Those are just small steps, right? And yeah, I can say that, but it's like it's hard for people to kind of reach out sometimes because you're so stuck in that sadness.
Totally. I think I relate a lot to a lot of the men out there who just it seems as though there's this barrier where you feel as though it somehow does make you weaker to show that you at all feel ever sad. And I can honestly say that right now, as vulnerable as I'm being, I feel a lot of relief to just even be talking about this.
Yeah.
Because I think holding things in, it really does build up.
Yeah.
And your thoughts that become negative only become even worse. And I guess I just want to say to anybody out there, like, you got to let it out, because if it doesn't, it'll explode out. And that's the worst thing, because I'm telling you, that quote is so fucking beautiful and powerful to me that I said earlier. That I would, no matter who, whether it's you, Julie, or it's you, Brandon, or anybody else, I would rather we cry together than I having to cry at somebody's funeral. And the bottom line, I want everybody to know that you're not alone. Even if you have the most negative thoughts, I promise you, a lot of people feel like you do. And if you just maybe reached out, you would realize that your problems aren't so like focused on you. Like your problems aren't as bad as you may think that they are. Like, fuck, man. Like you could be your own worst enemy. And like that's what fucking sucks. Is that sometimes you have to reach out to other people because they can show you kindness that you can't show yourself. And like that's mainly what I really want to emphasize on, is that I think it's important to reach out and to just feel like you have somebody there. And I get it could be hard because I know some people have, like, they feel as though they don't have anybody. And that's another thing that my research told me, that it's also okay to have a lot of like self-love and a lot of confidence in just being by yourself. But I guess it's that line, right, between going too far into yourself where you shut everybody out, and then just being comfortable being by yourself, to then eventually maybe you'll reconnect with the group and be like, how's everybody doing? You know? My bad, bro. I didn't think I was gonna get that emotional about it, but
no, you're good. I was actually I was on my phone because I was trying to look for a quote that I think you guys probably have heard of her, of Jessica Salgado. I think that is the one that I was trying to look for, but she had talked about how like crying and like how it's good to cry because it's a sense of release. Like your body kind of needs a release, and a way to release is to cry, right? I feel like I also I know you're talking about like men's mental health, but I feel like because I grew up like around you guys, I feel like I had kind of like a...
It rubbed off on you.
It rubbed off on me, yeah. Like, if people met me like my freshman year of college or like my sophomore year of college, they know that like I was very much like to myself, and I didn't really like to be vulnerable or express my feelings. Now, I mean, I'm totally different, right? Yeah. But like before, it was more of like I hated crying. Like I always thought crying was like weak. Like why would I cry? Like I don't want people to kind of see that side of me. I never really wanted people to see that vulnerable part of me. At least back then, right? And eventually what I learned, and one of my friends would always tell me, it's like, bro, it's like, it's okay to cry. Like that doesn't make you weak. Like that just, like you also keeping those things in isn't helping you. And like, of course, like for me, I always used to keep things in. Like I would never tell like my friends what I had going on with like my family. Like nobody knew besides me. Nobody like, or I wouldn't really talk to Stevie about any of my feelings. Like I'd be like, no, like nobody would know any of my sadness, any of that. And eventually that's when I like started learning that like crying is okay, and like that doesn't mean you're weak or like you're whack for like crying. It just shows that you're just really like strong in yourself, and like I guess also confident in yourself, and like and that you really like yourself in the fact that you're crying, because that's a way for you to release instead of holding everything in, instead of being like, oh, I'm a big macho or whatever. And it's just like, no, like crying is okay. Like it's also a natural thing, you know, like when we're babies, we just naturally cry.
Yeah.
Like it's just a natural thing of our own. And it's like eventually we kind of grew up hearing and saying like, you shouldn't be. But it's like, but we grew up like that. We grew up crying. Like if something happened, we cried. Like I see my nephew, he hits his head, he starts crying. Like it's just like a natural thing, and like it's natural for us to cry. There's nothing weird, there's nothing wrong with it. And like to me, that's why I feel like I've always understood, I guess, men of like why because they kind of grew up being like, you have to be mature, or you have to be the older person or the bigger person. Like you shouldn't be showing your emotions, kind of thing. And I think it's always knowing that it's okay. It's okay to cry. It's okay to be sad. And I think the biggest thing that I always hear is people always say like they don't want to be a burden to others, of like telling them that like they're going through this, or like they feel sad, and like they don't want to be a burden to people. But I feel, at least for me, and I feel like I can maybe say this for other people, I don't think anyone's ever a burden to anyone. I think that's what friends and family is for them to be there for you. Like family, how they said that they love you like unconditionally, like whatever you say to them, they'll love you no matter what. And I think that just goes for like you and how you feel, and whoever else feels that way, if they have siblings and everything, that like, or your family members, whoever you're closest to, your cousin, whoever, that like, and to just a reassurance to everyone that like you're never a burden to anyone. Like if you're sad, like that's a normal emotion too, you know, like as much as you can be happy, you can also be sad. You know, like those emotions are normal for us to go through. And like, there's nothing wrong with either one of those. And like, to me, I always like telling people that like, you're never a burden. Like whether you're my friend or like my brother or whatever you are to me, like my cousin, you're never like, if you want to tell me something of like, you're sad, then tell me. Like whether I'm tired, just tell me. I even tell my friends too, like if you're going through something late at night and like it's like 2-3 in the morning and you're like, you need a like talking sesh, just call me. Like I am on do not disturb because I'm trying to sleep, but it has a thing, if it is an emergency and you call me twice, it'll ring. So like if like, just call me. And like some of you, especially like Stevie, you're my favorites. So if you text me, it'll ding either way. So like, and you too, Brandon.
Or just knock on her door.
Yeah, or just knock on my door.
Yeah.
But like for you guys, right? Like if you guys text me, like I'm on do not disturb, I still get the message. Like because I know that like if you guys need something late at night, it's not just to like fuck with me. Like you guys are like you guys genuinely need something.
Yeah.
And I feel like I've always been that person to kind of reassure people that like you can reach out to me, like no matter what, whether it's 1-2 in the morning, at night, whenever it is, if you need it, just reach out, you know. And I guess that's the other side of it, right, is that it's not just me. Like I'm not the only person who exists in the same mentality. There's other people, you have other friends who probably have that, and you know, and for them to grow up with you this long in your life, I think they'll love you no matter what you say. Like they'll be there for you no matter what, you know?
Yeah, bro. You've known me since I was shitting my pants in school. Like, you've known me long enough. Like,
and I get that it's also hard to kind of remember those things, right? Because like how I said, I used to be in that same thing where like I felt lonely, especially like having friends that I had in a whole different city to coming back here and like not seeing them anymore is like hard. And especially like leaving my friends here, right? Like that was hard, trying to make new friends in a whole different area and feeling lonely and being away from family. And it's just like, I get that it's hard to kind of get yourself out of that. It's a learning thing, you know, and sometimes And I did learn a lot to just enjoy my own self and enjoy to be alone. But that's because I went through a whole bunch of shit. Like I left home, I left my friends. I ended up a long-term relationship that I had, you know, like those things kind of happen. But in the end, like you can also still remember that you do have friends and family. Yeah, they're not close by sometimes. Like for me, right? They weren't close by, but they're there, you know? And just like learning that. And I know that it's hard to get out of that sadness because you're so used to it. You're so used to just being there. You're so used to just like, and your mind creates these moments of like you overthinking and being like, maybe I'm just not that good of enough of a person, or like
totally.
that, like, you know, like my friends maybe don't like me, or my friends maybe think I'm annoying because I keep telling them about these things, right? But I think it's the same thing as like family who loves you unconditionally. I think there's friends who love you unconditionally too, you know?
It's true.
And it is hard. It's hard to remind yourself of that, you know?
Yeah. I don't know if you guys ever see those things on TikTok where it's like positivity slideshows. I like them. They make me feel good. But I like this one. It says, "You cannot live when you are untouchable. Life is vulnerability." I just like that. You know, you got to be vulnerable. I mean, yeah, I get it. It's tough, you know, because like day to day, right? You don't often like, you're not always, the conversations aren't always like, I'm sad, you know?
Yeah.
It's always like, hey, we're going to watch this movie, or hey, you want to smoke, or, you know, it's, I get it, you know, it's like, it's out of the norm. And even outside of the, like, the society norms, it's just not often what people talk about. So I get it. It's tough to kind of be the person to be like, by the way, I'm not so good, you know, like, you know, to break that, that cycle. I get it. It's tough, but, it's what we're here for, you know, like that's literally it. Like, yeah, I mean, like, what else are friends and family for? Like, literally, it's the only reason.
How are you doing, Brandon? How are you doing?
I'm chilling. I'm good.
Yeah, you're good?
Yeah.
That's good. That makes me happy, bro. I think about you guys all the time. You guys are like family.
Okay.
She's like family.
But you really are, Brandon, because like, I'm not trying to exclude you at all, but I'm just saying,
No, you're good.
Since it's men's mental health, you're my brother, Brandon, and if you're my brother for reals, and I want you to know that, like, if you ever had anything to talk about, you could come to me, bro.
Yeah, you could too, bro. You don't gotta save it for the podcast. We
I know.
We don't have to. It doesn't have to be on camera. You can
I know.
I'm
But
just
he
kidding.
wants it on camera.
I'm just kidding.
I think it's
Just
because
kidding.
the reason I chose to do it on the pod is because I think it's important, the fact that it is like kind of taboo, and the fact that not a lot of people do it.
It's brave, man. It's brave. I commend you for that.
Yeah.
I think it's extremely brave.
But that's why I guess also for me, I feel like me saying these things, like, yeah, they're like, it's nice, but I'm also like, I don't get it as much as because you guys are men, right? Like, I can say from my perspective, and that's why I'm saying it, like, from my perspective, right? And like how I said, like, how I'm pretty open to it, but like, I guess I don't get the men side of it, right? Of like
okay.
how it is.
I think it's
But,
like
yeah.
Sorry to cut you off.
No, you're good.
But it there's a lot of differences, but there's a lot of similarities, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like we all have our own. Everybody's got their own stuff, their own demons, their own whatever it is. But we've talked about it. You know, there's different rates of it, where it depends on races or backgrounds or economic stuff. You know, like what was it, like 4 or 5 episodes ago, I brought up Asians are less likely to seek help for mental health. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying that to like put down the men's struggle of mental health. I think it's just stuff like that makes you realize that it's everybody's got something. You know what I mean? And that's not at all to discredit anybody. It's just to say, like, you're not out of the norm for feeling the way you feel. Yeah. Like, in fact, you're part of the norm for feeling the way you feel. To feel nothing is to be the one who's weird.
Yeah, that's true, bro. That's so true.
So, yeah.
That's why I was thinking, like, that's why I said in the beginning of the episode, man, like, it's not an excuse, but I really think it's cool if you show kindness to even one person, you know, like whether it's you're not feeling it, whether you're going through something. I feel like showing kindness to other people, is one of the things that I really try to emphasize on, because you never know what somebody can be going through, and sometimes people can be going through some tough shit. And just kind of wrapping things up, the person that I thought of that made me want to do this whole topic and talk about it is, funny enough, my nephew, because I feel as though I always think of the future generation. They're the ones who kind of step up and are always kind of trying to push things forward. And I'm hoping that if I maybe make talking about your emotions as a guy more normalized, maybe when he grows up, things will only be better for him.
Yeah.
And so that's why I think I got a little emotional, because I think about that guy. And I just want to make sure that when it's his time, you know, to go out into the world and to do whatever he dreams of doing, I hope that I did my part to try and make it better for him. But
well, it will be a better one for him. Like you really don't have to look that far back to see how messed up things are, you know, already, you know. But yeah, you know, again, I commend you for that, man. Like I think it's really brave. I don't think you should feel any shame for a second for feeling the way that you do.
The shame will hit in like an hour or two, so don't worry.
But you know, I could be wrong, because I don't know, maybe you haven't said it, but I've always seen you as on the happier side, a more optimistic person. And I don't think it's, maybe I am assuming, but you haven't always felt this way, right? Mm-hmm. You've had your moments where you felt where you felt happy. And just like that passed, this will pass too. Like it's not always going to be like this, you know? Mm-hmm. It's tough. It's really tough to like stick out the waves, but it'll pass and it'll all be okay. Like it'll be okay. You got a lot of people rooting for you. You got your sister. She's awesome. You got your older brother. You got both your parents who love you. You know, you got a lot to be grateful for. And again, that's not to say like, oh, how dare you be sad? Not at all. I'm just saying like, don't lose sight of that. Don't lose sight of that light. Because, you know, you got all that, you know, you got me. I'm pretty awesome. Patrick, Israel. And we got this wonderful podcast, you know?
Yeah.
A lot of blessings, a lot of stuff like that. You know?
And yeah, like how you said, like even our nephew, right? Like he for sure loves you, bro. Like he for sure, I'm telling you that fool always looks for you. Like, and to just like emphasize that like you have everyone and you have him. Like as much as like you also are doing this for him, I generally can tell you that he probably appreciates all of this.
Dude, he always tries to tear the door down. He's always like, "Dear Stevie." You know?
Yeah.
Like, thank you guys.
So like you have people here, you know, like you have all of us here.
Yeah.
Sorry, I keep looking for my phone. I was trying to really look for the quote, but I couldn't find it.
I know this is boring to you.
No, I was really
try to paraphrase what the quote was.
I don't even remember. I had just seen it too, because I was trying to look for another screenshot that I had. I couldn't find it.
It was
just something about crying.
I'll send you more positivity.
No, because I skimmed it.
No, it's
positivity.
Thank you though. I appreciate that.
Talks.
I appreciate that.
Those. I love those.
I appreciate that.
But yeah, do you feel better or like?
Yeah, no, I feel a lot better. Yeah, it was true. Wow, the articles are right. Talking about it makes you feel better. Yeah, who would have known?
There's evidence. That we're not lying.
I mean, I guess I don't know if you want my perspective, but because it's for men, not for women.
Go ahead.
But I feel like I think what you said, a lot of it is just like talking about it and crying about it is always really useful. At least that's what I learned, and that's why like I have like a friend who I generally tell her everything. Like every time I'm in a crisis, like I'll reach out to her. And like I have a person now, kind of. I don't just throw everything at her now, though. I've learned to kind of just like, because we're not close in like we're not in the same city anymore. But like finding those people, like for now, like how you said, like you found us. I feel like I also found you guys, like talking through the podcast, talking to you guys about like just shit. Especially because like I always want to know the male perspective. If I'm not going crazy, I'm like, am I wrong? Am I tripping? But yeah, like how you saw here, you know, it's just talking about it. And if you just need to cry it out, just cry it out. Because there's some people who do that. There's some people who who don't want to talk about it, but they just cry and they just want somebody there. Just finding those moments, you know, like finding that person, whether it's me, whether it's Brandon, whether it's any of your other friends, like, just finding that, you know, and whatever is good for you. Like, if you feel like, how I said, like, if you want to talk about it, talk about it. If you just want to cry about it, just cry about it. But if you want somebody there, you'll have somebody there.
Yeah.
If you don't want anyone there, then just cry, you know, by yourself. There's some people who like that. There's some people who just like crying by themselves, you know?
Yeah.
I like doing that sometimes. So, like, it's just like, but for you, it's more of like whatever you're comfortable with. Nobody's forcing you to cry. Nobody's forcing you to express yourself. It's more up to what you feel is going to heal yourself.
Yeah. Sometimes I wish somebody did force me to cry. But
Tell him something, Brendan. Tell him.
I'll do it. What does Puss in Boots do? A donkey? He like steps on.
like,
it.
my shoes.
shoes.
And then I think I've cried enough for this episode.
No,
but
yeah, but
I think
it'll be okay, bro. It'll all be okay.
Thank you.
Like
everything will be
will be cool. Yeah.
Come on, I knew it was coming. Every time you kept saying it'll be cool, I was like, what are you trying to say, bro?
Oh, me? No. I think I just.
No, I know.
But I assume a lot of people like hearing that. Is everything's gonna be okay? Because you know, I don't know.
You'll be okay.
Yeah, you'll be alright. Like
okay.
People die every day. That's an Izzy one.
Bro,
Izzy always tells me whenever I'm feeling down.
And on Twitter, there's a Courage the Cowardly Dog. There's a video that I always watch. I also really watched it when Puffy died. It's Courage coming up to you and he'll be like, "It's okay."
But like, I guess if you want to end up the episode, we can. But I wanted to say like, there's a measurable impact that you already did. You know, there's people who watch the show. Like, we have an audience. You know, and you're not the only person who feels sad. So people are gonna watch this and be like, damn, like that takes a lot of heart to open up like that on a camera to essentially the world.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So the people are gonna watch this and be like, you know, maybe it's not so bad that I open up to my buddy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's a measurable impact. It's brave, and I think you should feel proud of that.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
I know you don't feel it. Sometimes you don't
I
feel
think
it.
it's too like I'm too in the moment right now.
Yeah.
I don't
Well,
feel
yeah,
it
because
yet.
I'm telling you, like, I used to be in that space because I grew up with my brothers a lot, and I was like, and when people would say that, like, you're really brave, or like, you're not weak for doing it.
You're like, then why am I crying?
Yeah. But it's like here, even though hearing it, you don't feel it because you feel you're still in the sadness, or like you just cried, right? Which to you, crying is a negative, right? But it's also trying to get yourself out of that it's not a negative. It's a positive because like you're releasing yourself. You're releasing your emotions.
It's also like it's like a lot of the stuff we talk about on this show. Like, are scientists, psychologists, are they all just lying? It's like being like saying like it's good to cry. Like, is there some grand conspiracy saying that it's okay to do all this stuff? No, it's the truth. That's how it is. The only reason anybody feels shame about it is because society. Like, it's just it's a societal norm. Just a bunch of guys decided like, I don't want to do that. You know what I mean? That's literally it. There's really no measurable like, so don't feel shame about it because it's like other things, you know.
Because I mean, there's tears of sadness and there's tears of joy. You know, like,
I wish I could feel that. Right
also,
now.
if anybody shames you for crying, they're like a piece of shit. Like, you know, I don't. That's just blatantly wrong. You know.
I feel like I get that perspective of like you're also scared of, I guess, there being the critical of like, man, this guy's crying, right? And you're a dude, right?
Like, well, it's that thing of like, well, what's this guy gonna think of me? Like, now that he's seen me cry, is he gonna think I'm weak? Is he gonna think I'm a pussy? Is he gonna think, you know, all this shit? That's like, that's not true.
I believe in what I said. I think doing something courageous that most people are afraid to do only makes you stronger.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it does, for sure, definitely. Like, well, because I can imagine if it brings you to tears, it's extremely hard. Everything after that's walk in the park.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
True.
You could probably.
I got a movie to look forward to today too. So
yeah, we do.
A lot.
but
A
we're gonna
movie?
watch The Flash. But he's the
Yeah.
real superhero.
Okay, now he's glazing too
Cheesy.
much. Yeah.
All
he's
right,
glazing
all
too
right,
much.
all
I
right,
appreciate it though. I
whatever.
appreciate
Whatever.
it.
All right.
No, I
all right,
appreciate it. I
fine.
really do.
Okay,
No,
okay.
I do. I do. I do. I do.
You're
But
cheese ball.
yeah,
Brandon.
I-
Oh, it's
I
cornball.
love that though.
It's
Cornball.
cornball.
Cheese ball.
Okay.
you know what? I like that. You
I
get a
like
pass.
That. I
'cause
like that though.
you
I
get a
like that.
pass.
Though. I finally found it.
Oh, okay, cool. We'll end off the episode with this. Julie.
Yeah.
Go
It
ahead.
was just so this is one of my friends, shout out to Annabelle. She had actually posted this on her story, and it was from Jessica Salgado. And what she said was, so what if you cry? At the right pressure, water can even cut through steel. It's your superpower, baby. And then my friend Annabelle said, there's always strength in vulnerability. This is why tears are chemically different. Don't let machismo or anything tell you different.
I love that. That's cool. That makes me feel like everything's cool. I'm sorry. I don't know. We've been doing it the past few weeks.
I'm the cornball.
Yeah, that was
kidding.
corny. I'm
just
sorry.
kidding.
But that was good. I actually really like that.
But yeah.
Yeah.
Send me that after the episode ends.
All right. But yeah, yeah, it's okay to express yourself.
Yeah.
Everything will be cool.
Yeah, that's the
Um,
environment we build here.
Mhm.
So if you want to cry,
Yeah.
talk about your feelings, we won't judge you.
Yeah.
It's cool.
Or if
Come on
you
the
wanna-
show.
Come on the show.
show. Or if
Cry
you,
with us on the
Every
show.
every single person can come on the show.
you can comment
Don't quote
if
me
you
on
want us to read. I read the comments so on YouTube. So
Yeah, I read YouTube comments.
Yeah,
If you want my
so-
attention, I'll read YouTube comments.
yeah. So if you
Um,
guys want to express something, express it on here. You
There's
know?
always help out there. You know,
Mhm.
there's
Resources are available. If you need any resources, I encourage you to strongly look for them.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody wants to see. Nobody's preying on your downfall. Anybody who is a bad person.
Yeah.
Seek out help if you need it.
Yeah.
But until then, we'll probably see you guys next week.
And we'll see y'all next time. Bye.